Hello and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is Friday, June 5th, and we're back over here where I've been slowly expanding out my mass production. And this time it was some autoclaves. I noticed when crafting the Dyson swarms that seemed to be one of the major hiccups. Technically, I think I also need to swarm out the solar factory to be able to craft more of those faster as well, but for the moment I stuck with the autoclave since we use that for other recipes as well, so this will be a nice little improvement here. But that's not really the important part. We're really only here for one thing and one thing only, and that is, I thought I had this in my inventory, the dislocator. If we hop over to Horus, which is by far the best dimension for this, you get a 3.37 bonus. We've got ourselves a Dyson swarm. Now this thing was very expensive, but is pretty much almost already immediately worth it. Where I had left off yesterday for energy, for example, and when I got on this morning, I was at 2 point something e to the 15th, so I was down a lot of energy. My high for energy before crafting this thing was at like 9 and some change e to the 16th, so we're slowly building back up towards there. Well, I shouldn't say slowly. We are much faster building up towards that than we got there the first time. It's currently generating 332, basically 332 billion EU per tick. It's not quite doing the max of 337 because I didn't have 10,000 drones right at the start. It was like just a little shy. So there's that. Now this thing, I've set it up so my plan is if you look at the wiki, there's like two different wall sharing methods. I'm going to go the one that gets me 8 Dyson swarms eventually, but currently this guy will serve our needs for the moment. And you can actually tell, it's actually kind of easy to tell when the hour mark's coming up for when this is going to trigger a new cycle, because if we look to the right again at that energy thing, it can tell us how much EU per tick in the last hour. I'm actually not sure why it's not all the way up to max, like what the hiccup there is, but you can also see how much we're using. Now the setup for this is it's a little expensive, but it's pretty relatively straightforward. So you need some quantum computers. You can use one if you're using more expensive circuits. I just went with the 2 options so I could use BioWare mainframes and make sure I could actually like set this up today. These are both set up just using the wiki setup for getting 53,000 in computation with their overdrive and overclock ratios, and those are just feeding right over here. And then the main unit itself is sending power via the 65k laser source hatches for UEV. So this is more than able to cover that amount of voltage. Comes over to this guy, which does have the UHV capacitor. Technically, we don't need these other ones in here, but I don't know. I thought it looked awkward without those in there, so I threw them in. And obviously, not really. The only thing going out is to the 2 supercomputers, and I actually would have expected that number to be double, but yeah, this guy's running fine. This guy's also running fine, so yeah, no issues there. The only other thing we had to do to set this up is we've got our input hatches for the swarms, which, why is that not registering swarms? I wonder. Swarm. There we go. Much better. So now it should, the next time the cycle starts, it'll pull roughly 64 out of here. And then we've got our gelid. So that's basically it for this guy. Obviously it produces a bunch of power, but because of this, so we got this guy For all the power that it has above 6.3 or 6 to the power of 13 EU per tick, every 5 minutes it'll dump that all into the wireless network. Now, if I hop back over to the main base, basically what I did today, say for example, let's hop over to the plasma mixer. Finally set that up as a teleport thing just because do a bunch of stuff over here. I went around to all my different Lapitrons that currently are running off of NAC 5 specifically, and added UHV capacitors, so now they are every 5 minutes they get set back to this amount of power pulling from the main network. And in theory I shouldn't need the NAC 5 anymore. Yeah, you see this guy hasn't fired in over nearly 5 hours. Because of doing this though, I did actually discover, oops, that was the wrong place, that I had done a little bit of an oopsie, and my constantly ticking down NAC 5 was not as dire as I thought before. That's funny, I forgot to put that back on. I had accidentally, on this specific reactor, had this machine controller inverted, so this thing was running 100% of the time, always burning fuel, and it will always run even if this thing's full. So that was an accident and part of why I was struggling with fuel, since this literally just always was running. And I don't use that much power over here, so it really was just going to waste, which is unfortunate. But like you can see, this one was running off NAC 5, so it's got the capacitor. Same with the ones I have down here for all my quote-unquote random powers that I use from, like if I call for random UV power and stuff. So that is cool. But aside from that, I didn't actually have that much time to play. I set up the Dyson swarm, and then near the end I set up this. Like, I didn't even finish setting up that compact reactor out in the desert yet. What I did decide to do, though, was just fire off some crafts. Now, the first one I fired off earlier, but is still... I wonder why this thing's not crafted yet. Actually, now that I think about it, you can see it's been going for 3.5 hours. I'm going to have to look into this, why this isn't crafting. But crafting the black hole containment field, we need this for a couple things. We need it for cheaper singularities, which is mainly important so we can craft more plasma forges. And then we also need it specifically for super dense transcendent metal, because that is required for the UIV component blocks, which is the next major goal I want to go for. But this is like a little step in between. And you can see I'm just crafting some of the casings over here, which is also going really slow. So this will be something I have to look at, see if I can speed this up, because this has been going for 4 hours and I don't have a single casing crafted yet. So that's a problem. Especially because it's on my biggest CPU and it doesn't seem to be paralyzing very well. I don't really understand why. I don't know. 15 million bedrockiuming it still. Now, the other thing, I have a new forge crafting. I want to get 2 new forges, but I'm just crafting one at a time, mainly because of the number of coils. Specifically so I can get another forge. One for infinity, one for hypogen, one for everything else, and one for space-time. So that we're starting with one, and we'll start splitting some things out. I'll probably just move hypogen over to it, have that constantly crafting, get the next set of coils, set one up for space-time, and then just constantly, I think crafting these pretty regularly will be good. But the sooner I can get the black hole containment field done, I'll be able to craft these significantly faster and cheaper. Like, all this stuff in here won't be required anymore because singularities will just be a little bit of space-time, and I can't remember what the other item is, but they're all things considered, besides the setup to get them is pretty cheap. I think we go, where is it? Not that guy. Oh yeah, it's this block. Yeah, just a little bit of space, half a ingot of space-time, eternal singularity. It just requires the black hole, and then obviously all the infrastructure to get to space-time. But will be substantially faster. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it for the weekend. I will say I don't really know how the next week will go for this. Not so much because of schedule, but because of there's a rumor on the Discord that 2.9 comes out on the 7th, and I won't be able to play on the 7th. I'm not in town. So we'll see about me upgrading Monday and how much havoc that wreaks on everything, because it has a lot of changes, so I'm kind of interested to see what happens. But yeah, aside from that, for the weekend, my main goals are to just basically finish out crafting a couple more forges, and then set myself in a good spot to get the component blocks and go from there. But yeah, appreciate you for watching. Hope everybody has a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Goodbye.